Yesterday Today kicks off a wonderful set of events that celebrate the city's open data law. How many of you went out to Pratt last night in the Navy Yard? A few of you. Okay, I guess those who stayed out later are going to be showing up later because they had too much of a good time. Really check out all the events at open-data.nyc, and I'll save the rest of that to Kelly to talk about. For those of you who have come to a School of Data event in the past, you've seen this slide. For those of you who have not, just to put in perspective of where we are in the universe, you're there. I don't know if you can see in the far back corner, but let me just bring it in a little bit closer. So the image here with the little white dot is taken from Voyager. It was the blue marble photo. Carl Sagan speaks eloquently of it. It was essentially Voyager was leaving our solar system. They turned the spacecraft around and took a photo. This is all of us. These are all the people that you've ever known, will know, exist in that little tiny white dot. And then the famous Apollo photo, which is everyone that you've ever known, will know, have known here. One small planet. One thing that I find quite interesting is in our own history of New York City, which we need to recognize that almost every single one of us are immigrants and migrants to this island and the series of islands that we're on, is that we've displaced the native population. We've completely changed the landscape of these islands that we're on. We're on an island that is called Mannahatta, which is a term for the island of many hills. And if you bike around this island, it seems pretty flat unless you go uptown. Sadly, the Lenape people aren't here to really express themselves in the same way. There's only one living person who's fluent in Lenape, which is a kind of a travesty for the type of colonization and oppression that has happened to Native people in the Americas and around the world. But they leave us a legacy that we can take and that we can kind of embody for today, and this is something that we hold dear in our work at BetaNYC. And it's kind of hard to think about when we can't own the land. Well, if we can't own the sea and we can't own the air, how can we own the land? And for those of you who live in New York City who aren't apartment owners, you know that you live at the whim of somebody else. And so how do we take these ideas and shepherd the future? There is very little that we will be able to own in this very expensive city, but we can own our future. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Really, our futures are the dreams that we had as kids turned into a reality. A clown said this. A very smart clown said this. So what is our story? It starts in the in the lead up to World War II. My grandfather, World War II veteran, has a medal that said that he fought for the freedoms of speech and the freedoms for religion, the freedom from want, and the freedom from fear. In 1989, we had very enterprising civic officials who saw that there was an opportunity for us to own our municipal data. And they put forth in the charter revision of 1989, the creation of the public advocate, which if you could have voted for, hopefully you voted for this past Tuesday, but only 9% of New Yorkers actually voted for the public advocate. They voted for and created this thing called the Commission on Public Information and Communication, also known as COPIC. In 1989, they had the foresight and the vision to create the world's first data directory. It exists as a phone book. You can go to our municipal archives and pull up the April 1993, the first edition and the only edition to the public data directory. And this is what the city's data catalog looked like in April of 1993. Agency name, application name, year activated, application description, and some database contents. No different than the piece of legislation that we got passed a few years ago, which talks about making sure that every single data set has a data directory. We're very fortunate enough to have enterprising leadership in New York City and a large group of community activists who have sat together with the city to craft the city's open data law. It took us 2 years to get the open data law that we're celebrating this week. 2 years. Gail Brewer started off with a very enterprising piece of legislation that was very simple, and it said, put all the data that's out there online. It took us 2 years to negotiate, and on 7th of March, 2012, a number of advocates stood around and celebrated the signing of the piece of legislation. Shortly thereafter, BetaNYC worked with the mayor's office to go to all 5 boroughs and have a better understanding of what we wanted to see carried forth from the Bloomberg administration into the next administration. This led to the People's Roadmap, and in the 2013 roadmap, we identified 34 different proposals. 16 of them have been since introduced as legislation. If you voted for the 3 charter amendments, one of those charter amendments directly grew from the 34 proposals that we had put forth. 9 new pieces of legislation have been passed: data standards, the introduction of MODA into the city charter, getting the city charter online and available for free without any cost and not owned by a publishing corporation, the city record online in a machine-readable format that you can get at any location where you're at, and many public-private partnerships. This led to our foundation of our 4 freedoms: the freedom to connect, the freedom to learn, the freedom to innovate, and the freedom to collaborate. And over the last few years, we've been fortunate enough to continue to have strong leadership to get a number of pieces of legislation passed, which you can go to nyc.gov about and see the additional 8 pieces of legislation that have really strengthened them through 2015, 16, and 17. This process is an iterative process. We love agile, and we are working to make our government agile and making sure that our laws are agile. We then have been working with agencies, so we've worked with the Parks Department, love the parkies out here, to really think through how agencies can be better using data. We've been working with the Manhattan Borough President's Office and the CUNY Service Corps to empower a next generation of civic leaders that are coming from our public universities that are here in the city. To date, we've been educating 50 of them, which is quite a bit of an achievement. And thank you, Emily, for being the partner in the day-to-day operations. We've been able to produce some prototypes. Well, we would love to say that we have all of the resources in the world to make them full-fledged. We've done our darndest to make them fully functional prototypes that you can use every single day, but we still call them prototypes because we're still working on them. The first one that we were able to put together is in partnership with Microsoft, which uses Power BI, which is a very simple visualization of 3-in-1 data. And so there are 5 different versions of BoardStat, each roughly the same with the same features. Where you can select your community board, a date range, and then see very simple visualizations of 3-in-1 data. This tool has helped us hold 311 and agencies accountable, so then we're able to go back to do it and go back to MODA and say, hey, we see some errors in the data, can you please correct this? And we're so fortunate to have an administration that listens to us and then works with us to make sure that the data is corrected. Through our conversations with community boards, we discovered that it's hard to bring in a few different data sets. One is the State Liquor Authority, the other is noise complaints, sidewalk cafes, and restaurant inspection scores. So if you're interested in finding noisy neighbors who have a sidewalk cafe or a liquor license, go to SLAM, and the little blue chips that are stacked on top of each other are your 311 service requests on a noisy liquor license or a sidewalk cafe. And lastly, New York City, because it is so freaking big, has a very distributed form of government. We have 51 city council members, 59 community boards, we have 5 boroughs, each borough is its own county. There are a myriad of different types of administrative districts where there is somebody who's in charge that you probably can't find their name, telephone number, or email address, but you can find what district it is and then start using the telephone to find out who they are. So we created a tool called Boundaries Map that lets you overlay all of those different pieces of information. This past year, we've been working with the Computer Science for All to educate the next generation of civic hackers. So we're working with the Department of Education's middle school and high school program. And so far, we've done 3 events. We've educated 100 teachers in open data. We've had 1,500 students participate. And we are now in the process of doing 2 more in-school hackathons or borough hackathons in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And then we're going to City Hall on April 17th. We're going to host the very first hackathon inside of New York City Hall, which is going to have our city's middle school and high school students who are learning computer science and articulate their needs, their concerns, their projects to city council members as well as community board members. And so to us, the last year and a half is kind of like winning a Grammy because we are just slogging through this. We're taking ideas, we're taking names, and we're just making our vision and putting it out there. And we love all of our collaborators who have helped us get there. So thank you. That's a little bit about BetaNYC and our story and how we get to NYC School of Data. So NYC School of Data. We are Care Bears. We care, and we have the power, and together we can fight all evil. So this is what I imagine NYC School of Data. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Fundamentally, we're a community conference. We focus on 4 areas: civics, design, tech, and data. This year, we are working on panels, workshops, and some office hours. Again, you need to have access to the internet to see the schedule. You will find the schedule at schoolofdata.nyc/schedule. Some data points for the day, and many of you registered very, very late and scared the crap out of the event organizers. So please don't do that again. So we have 492 ticket holders. Never before have we had so many ticket holders. 32% of the ticket holders have some type of government representation. Pronouns, this is very interesting. More people use the female pronoun than the male pronoun. And be conscientious about what pronouns you're using. 16 participants have used they. So, check yourself and check your own question of who and what gender somebody's representing themselves. 48 of you have agreed to share your information with our sponsors, so thank you very much. Cha-ching. We're going to have 37 sessions. 36. There's been 1 cancellation for the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. 105 speakers, 63 volunteers, which is crazy, and 18 sponsors and partners. So before we move forward, I just want to quickly talk about conduct and photo and consent. We have pretty much 2 rules, and then we have a whole code of conduct that you can read. First of all is be respectful to the voices that are in the room. Second, listen as much as you speak. Photo policy, this is something that we've been advocating and seeing at other tech events, and so please be respectful of that. Black is a general consent, so don't worry. When you're taking a photo of a group of people, please look out for red lanyards. Those people want to ask whether or not they want to be in your photo, and so please respect them. And please don't take any photos of children. If you have any questions or issues, you can come find myself, Lauren, who's downstairs, or Kate. She had her face in here. I think she went back out. The 3 of us will be able to address any issue on hand. We do this because we stand in solidarity with you today, tomorrow, and forever. And to do that, we've done this through the community. These are all the organizations that are represented today through just our speakers alone. Yeah, I did the small print intentionally. Please feel free. There we go. Thank them. Our sponsors who have graciously supported BetaNYC and supported this event, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, Esri, who came in as a last-minute sponsor, Fund for the City of New York, IBM, is where our children are hanging out for the day, the Internet Society of New York, who's providing the live stream, Manhattan Borough President's Office, Gail A. Brewer, who gives us the space to do our daily operations, Microsoft Civic, who's been sponsoring the childcare for today, Mozilla, and Site Comply. So can we give a huge round of applause for financial sponsorship? Thank you. And as I said, we have a shitload of volunteers who are here today. So if you see anybody wearing a blue shirt, give them a thank you. Most of them have decided to work 2 hours, and some of them have decided to work 2 hours and donate some money for the event. So thank you, volunteers. We really appreciate the work that you're providing, the labor that you're providing, as well as some of the financial capital. I want to also give a huge shout out to our co-organizers, which is the first time that we've been, actually, let me rephrase this. We, this year, set out an objective, which was to bring more government representation to School of Data. And so we're very, very honored to have been able to work with MODA throughout School of Data, as well as Open Data Week. This year, we unified the submission process between both week-long events and the day events, and that way we were able to pick the best sessions that we wanted to see, where there were sessions that you submitted that were better represented to stand alone and to really have a dedicated event. We set forth to make sure that you would have a dedicated event. For those sessions that we saw that really needed to be part of a holistic, connected event, like through School of Data, we were able to pull that together. So I really want to give huge thanks to the team at MODA for kind of taking, having some faith and taking the opportunity and taking the time to work some late nights to help plan School of Data and Open Data Week, as well as the leadership team at BetaNYC and some of our Civic Innovation Fellows who have been working for the last 6 weeks to really make sure that this event runs flawless. So thank you very much, Alex, Adrian, Ashley, Benjamin, Christian, Devin, Emily, Alana, Faraz, Farheen, Tim, Ishrat, Kate, Lauren, and Matsui. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you. We wouldn't be able to be here for Galvanize. Do we have a Galvanize representative here? No? No? Okay. Galvanize, just as a quick plug, is a co-working space, but it's also a school. So if you're interested in data science, this is a great venue that is flexible. If you're a corporation that's looking for a place to have a co-working space, you'll see that there's many workspaces around here. Please don't disturb them. We've been given access to the public spaces. And so you can see, if you're interested in hosting an event, they've been great event partners. And I want to give thanks to Galvanize.